welcome back to my channel. This is Prepping by Faith, and today we're going to be discussing a plethora of different types of bags, and there's a reason that I want to share this with you guys. This is a continuation. It's part 2 of the first video that I put out where I showed you guys some of the items that I have put together for my children's bags. This is more of the adults information that I promised I would put out there. It's a subscriber requested video. I know there have been plenty of videos on bags, but I wanted us to see things from a little bit different angle as far as preparedness goes. Now, with preparedness, we plan for so many different types of scenarios, different things that could happen. And so our bags need to also reflect that, right? We can't just get into the mindset of thinking all we need is one type of bag. We're going to be, bugging out to the wilderness and living out of this one bag. And we're not taking into consideration any of the other things that may be useful to us if we were not in that type of a event, but we were in a different type of scenario altogether. And I'm going to give you some examples. If you are in a neighborhood and you were to have something like a gas leak, there are different items that you would want that may not be in a traditional survivalist style bag. If you were in a situation like a hurricane or approaching wildfire, there may be other items that are important to you to consider taking with you and prioritizing in that event. If you were in a situation where you had a medical emergency in your family and you needed a bag put together to run to the hospital with, those are going to be different items, and a lot of these tools that are in this bag are not even going to be welcome in those kinds of environments. If you're relocating to a shelter, same scenario. You're going to have different items that may not be welcome in that environment, but you may have to temporarily stay in that situation, and you're going to need things that are going to be important to you and your family, available to you and easily accessible. So as always, we do not want to vacate our home unless we absolutely have to. Bugging in is always going to be preferred because the plethora of our things, everything that we have, we know our homes well. It's our safe haven. It's where we want to stay if we can. But like I said, there are different things that can happen, different sets of circumstances that might force you from your home, and you're going to want to have these things available to you. So one of the first things that I did want to mention is always watch your weight limits with your bags. Understand that you can have all these different bags available to you, but if you had to only prioritize one, you're going to want to pare down. You're going to want to go through these things and figure out which items are going to be more critical. It never, especially if you have back issues or something like that, you're not going to want to be trying to trek around with a 60-pound bag. You're going to want to put that in the right load limit, especially if you're a female, to carry, because a lot of us can't carry that sort of weight for very long. It'd have to be very short distances, right? So we need to be thinking about things like that, especially when it comes to our children as well. The other thing I would recommend is that you guys have put together some sort of a this is my prepper handbook, shtf disaster preparedness. So in it are just a bunch of checklists and things that I would want to prioritize if I was faced with a specific type scenario. It's going to help me not to get that sort of deer in the headlights look. It's going to help me to prioritize what I'm doing so that I can quickly get things accomplished. There are checklists that I have for each family member, so I can hand those out, even my children, and it'll help them get their things together, but it will also help keep them distracted and often underfoot while we're trying to accomplish things that we need to do. So think about putting something like this together for your family. I do have a template available if it's something you guys are interested in. I put together that item quite a while ago. So I'm going to go ahead and move into each of these. I'm going to talk about the reasoning behind it, my thinking. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is a little bit different for me, guys. I have put this video off for a while because it's a lot like letting you in my underwear drawer, which is, it's exposing me a little bit. So it's not something that I have really prioritized because of that, but I do realize that it's something that we need to discuss as a group and a community. So this first bag here, this is just a couple of jackets that we have here that we have tossed onto this bag because these are not jackets that we regularly use. When you are running around, you're trying to get things together, especially depending on the type of environment you're dealing with, you may not even be considering a jacket. So having some already on top of your bag ready to go so you don't walk out the door and forget them, I think are important. This particular bag here is just a bag with our clothing items. This is my husband and I's clothing items bag. I already showed you what was in my kids'. So this is just, some gloves, some hats. It has a pair of long underwear for each of us, underwear, socks, wool socks, clothing items. There's a few t-shirts, a few pairs of pants, all that sort of thing is inside of this bag. And I think this bag is really a good one to have because, like I said, if you were in an event where you were going into a shelter or you had to go to the hospital or whatever it is, this would be mostly put together for you. And then all you would need would be some hygiene items that you may need to toss in there with this bag, and it would be ready to go. Now, those items are actually already in my other bag that I'm going to be sharing with you. So having something like this ready to go is a good idea in my opinion. Now, guys, everything I'm going to be sharing with you today is just a template. Don't take it as an absolute. These are just suggestions, things to be considering and thinking about. Now, when it comes to snacks, I have gone ahead and I have packed an additional bag. I think it's important just to have some snack type items available to us and our family. So I have things in here like Nutri-Grain bars. I have some corn nuts in here. I have fruit snacks, I have beef jerky, things like that. Of course, extra bottles of water. Anywhere you can stuff water, I think is going to be important. The other thing that we have in this particular bag is just some duct tape. I think duct tape is just one of those things that everybody should have in their preparedness package because you never know when you're going to need to repair something quickly and you're going to want it to be able to stay together and, you know, sort of waterproof it at the same time. So I think duct tape is great. Some other things that I have in here are just some ham radios. I think these are another thing we need to have some sort of comms on us. You know, if you don't want these, you can always go with a walkie-talkie or something like that. But understand that when you are putting these in here, you are going to have to be checking on them every few months, you know, every 3 to 6 months, you're going to want to make sure they're charged up. The other thing is these guys are not EMP protected when they are inside of a bag like this. So having spares where something like this, the equivalent of this is about, you know, $30 or a little bit less price point. It's a good idea to have some of these spares put inside of a Faraday cage so that they continue to be protected. So understand that. Same thing with the snacks. Understand that you're going to have to rotate through those. They are going to have dates that are coming up. They do go longer past the expiration date, but at some point it's going to lose its freshness. So making sure you just sort of rotate through some of those things I think is important. The other thing that I have in here is just this is an external hard drive. I think this is important to have in there. Just have some of your files, your important documents and things backed up so that way you have digital versions of that to take with you. You may not be able to have room for all of the papers and things that you've kept in other areas of your home, and you might not have time to collect it. So having something like this ready to go I think is key. So that is pretty much what's in this one bag. Like I said, guys, we can always pull from, move. If we can't and we have to pare down, think about that. But also understand too that in many scenarios, you're going to be able to bring your vehicles with you. So you're not going to be going out on foot with all of this stuff. Think ahead, you know, and if we're paying attention to the signs around us, we're going to understand that things are getting to the point where we need to consider this. So take the time to practice going ahead and putting your vehicles together, figuring out what you can bring, what you can't bring, because there's going to be other items that I'm not even sharing with you right here that are still going to be key items. Extra cases of water, you know, sleeping bags, tents, all those sorts of things might come into play depending on what scenario that you're facing, and you may want some of those items in there. You're going to want, you know, your fire safe if you can bring it with you. Ammo weighs a lot, right? Precious metals weigh a lot. So a lot of those type items, we need to be able to think about how are we going to bring those with. Those might be things that you want to bring with you. The other thing that I wanted to share with you real quick is just, you know, I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, you don't have enough food in there. You don't have any meals. This is our plan, guys. It is just a meal bucket. Make sure you have the tool to take care of that and open that. But I have a family of 4, so what I need for food is going to be a little bit more than what everybody else is going to need. And being able to fit all of that inside my bags with my gear and everything else, this just makes a lot more sense. I'm not mentally challenged, so if I need to figure out how to move some of this stuff, open this up, put some of this into bags and ditch other items, I can do that. But having this at the ready, I think, is a good idea. And knowing where it is, having it with my stuff so that it's ready to go, I think it's a solution, it's an option. If it doesn't work for you and you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to do it that way. But this is what I have planned out for my family. So that's there. The other thing is having a bag like this. This is called Save Your Equipment. This is a really nice sturdy bag. It's great for your 2A tools to carry out. Several of those, I may do a review video on this bag at some point. But one of the key features of it that we really like is the fact that it not only has this handle, It also has these straps that are nice and thick and padded, and this would be a great way to be able to carry this out if you needed to put it on your back. So think about something like this as a way of, you know, moving some of those items, those tools that you need, that you don't want to leave behind in an event. Okay, so now that we've covered all of that, let's get into this main bag here. This is my bag. The other one that's over there is my husband's. The only difference between the two of them is that he has some extra fixed blade knives on his bag. He also has some extra paracord in there. He has some bleed stop because I actually have the IFAK kit here on my bag. I think this is important. You need to have some sort of emergency first aid on you. You need to know how to use that. Take a course. I did mine through American Red Cross, but there are all kinds of different options out there. So having something like this, I'm not going to go through this kit today, but it's something that you need to have on you, need to have on your bag. This right here, guys, is just a compass. It's a nice solid compass that I have on here that could have value and be important in a situation. So we're going to go through each of these pockets here. In here, I have several different kinds of flashlights. So there is this one. This is just a little mini flashlight that's battery operated. It's fairly decent as far as brightness goes. So I think that one is a good item to have. I do have here a fire starter. This is more of a plasma type style lighter. So this, you know, is going to have to be charged up, but it's also a good item to carry with. I do have on the outside of my bag also a battery bank. This is so that I can charge up a phone or some item like that that needs recharge. I think that's great. Extra water, guys. I have 2 bottles there. I think that's important. Eye drops. I think this is something that a lot of us overlook, but man, if you get something in your eye and you can't get it out, you're going to want something like this to get that out of there, to flush that out, because that can be really dangerous if you can't see a target or something else that's going on. You need to have some way of taking care of that, so that's in there. I also have here a headlamp. I think these are really critical because you need to have your hands free in a lot of circumstances. You're going to want to have those free. This is a really good one, I find. So this is in there. You know, it can go brighter still, see? So these I think are great. So we're going to turn that off over here. I do have another little flashlight in here. This one's not as great. It's not as bright, but the great thing about it is it does have the hand crank on the side of it, and it's also solar. So having another backup like this, I think, is really good. You can always go ahead and put some extra batteries in there for, you know, the other type flashlight. But like I said, there's only so much space. So we do what we do, and we see what we can fit in these bags that are going to be more critical to us. So let's go ahead and move into the main compartment here, the other items that I have inside this bag. Now this, guys, is really important to me. It may not be important to you, but this is important to me. And what I really like about this little Bible here is that it's just really small. It's compact, but I can still see the words really easily. And a lot of these Bibles like this, when you try to look for these smaller Bibles, they will only have the New Testament, and they might have, you know, some of the Psalms and the Proverbs in them, but this one has everything. It has the Old Testament and the New Testament. So I think this is really great. I will leave a link in the description box if this is something you guys are interested in, but it's a really nice little Bible here. So that's in there. I do have some gloves. These are just some work gloves that I think would be critical in that sort of situation. I have some paracord here. Now, what's great about this particular paracord is that it has some tinder in it, and it also has your fishing line. So that, I've gone ahead so you guys can see that. The red one is your tinder. This is the yellow one is more of your fishing line, but that is in there. I think that's, you know, critical. You need to have as many options as possible with starting fires, but also having the cordage that you need on you as well. So that's in there. This is a survivor filter. It's kind of like a platypus. So what it is just a little bag. I went with the clear version just because if I needed to try to use some of the sun's, you know, UV rays to sort of help clean and sanitize some of that water, I could. I think you need to have other options like this. The great thing about this is that it's flat and, you know, thin. It doesn't weigh a lot, so I can also clip it to the outside of my bag, and it's not going to take up a lot of space. So think about something like that as far as a container. I do have some eyewear protection in here. This is just in here in case of a nuclear event or in case I just need some eye protection for something else I'm doing. I think it's important to have something like that on hand. I have in here a little pot. This is by Stanley. Inside there are a couple of cups. This is so that we can boil water quickly in an event. So that is in there. There is going to be, if I can find it down in here, here are the, you know, the sporks that are in here. This is something else that you're going to need as far as, you know, being able to eat stuff like this. You're going to want some tools. Now I have the entire families in my bag. That's just the way that we decided to do it. If you wanted to split that up and everybody carry their own, that's fine too. This is just a little more of a one that you can cook with, because you're going to need sometimes a longer handled utensil. You're not going to want just those shorter ones. So that's in there as well. This is my hygiene bag. We're going to go through that in just a minute, but there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about first. So in here, we just have a pocket stove. This is an Esbit, and the fuel for that is in here as well. So this is so that we can actually put something together quickly to boil some water. I think these are great. They're compact, and it's something that you should consider having, or some sort of an equivalent. Now, the only downfall I find with this stuff is that this stuff smells pretty bad. If you guys haven't ever used any of this, it smells a lot like fish. So definitely that's why it's in this bag, just to kind of keep that smell out. I think that I like it better that way, and it's also in one spot so I can find it quickly. So that's why that's like that. I do have an emergency bivvy in here. So this is just like an emergency sleeping bag. It also has a compass, has an emergency whistle on it. These are great to have for an emergency type situation. Let's go ahead and go through this hygiene bag. So what I have in here is just a bar of soap, some deodorant, some wet wipes. I do have some liquid children's Motrin in here. I have some Listerine, a toothbrush, toothpaste, hairbrush, floss. Electrolyte powders I think are great to have in here. My Sawyer Mini is in here. And then of course there are some other little like things like Imodium that you may need in an event. I'm telling you, if you've got some stomach issues going on and you've got the runs, you're going to want some tablets of Imodium. So that is down in there. I also have some sorts of creams in here that I think are important. This one is Ivarest, just in case you were to run into something like poison ivy. I have this in here. I think that is a good one to sort of toss in there as well. And then I have one of these in there too. This is called Sting Ease. So if you were to get an insect bite, you could go ahead and use something like that. So that's pretty much everything that's in this hygiene bag. And then I have a big bottle in here of ibuprofen. I think this thing is critical, especially if you're going to have a lot of different aches and pains and stuff with carrying things around in certain situations. So having some sort of a pain reliever, you may not want that much, but I just went ahead and grabbed one that size. I do have in here some sunscreen. This is especially important to me to protect my children, but you know, I think that is another item that you should think about. Just some feminine hygiene products are in here. Extra bags, anything that you can put in here that isn't going to take up a lot of room. You never know when you're going to need an extra Ziploc bag of some sort. You may have some sort of a messy situation. You may have some sort of a leftover that you want to save. There's any number of reasons, but thinking about extra bags, I think, is a good idea. In here, we have a ferro rod. So this is a really nice sturdy ferro rod that's in here. I have my knife sharpener in here. My knife itself is in this outside pocket so I can get to it easier. So I have this in there as well. This is by Kearshaw. I find that they have fairly decent knives, so this is in there. So that, like I said, I keep it on the outside. The other thing, let's see, I think that is pretty much it for this main bag, and then we're going to go ahead and move into this other compartment really quick. I do have some face masks. Here's another bag, another sandwich bag, just in case. I have a couple of these in there. You never know when you're going to need some sort of face protection, and if you are dealing with a situation like nuclear fallout, or you had a situation where there was a volcanic eruption, as we know, we've been dealing with a lot of these different viruses and things that are going around. There are a number of reasons why you would want to keep a couple of these in there. These are the N95 masks, the Cool Flow, so those are in here. Here is a trash bag. I think that this is another one that is oftentimes overlooked, but it's kind of important, especially if you have, dirty laundry and things that you want to keep separate that aren't going to stink up your entire bag. I think this is a good item to have in there. Just some more of these wet wipes. I feel like, we really need these. I have a big bottle of hand sanitizer in here that's not only for me, it's for my family. I have a map of my state. I think this is important as well. We do keep some in our vehicles also, but I wanted to make sure there was one in my bag too, just in case that was something that I didn't think to grab if I had to leave my vehicle for some reason. I think that it's important to have a map. I have a poncho in here. This, of course, is many purposes as well, not just to keep rain off of you, but also to keep fallout off of you as well. I think that's great. We have these little porta wipes. So these are another thing that you can think about. You just need some water to activate these. Can be used in the place of toilet paper. Obviously, it is going to use some water, so be thinking about that. If you need the water and it's critical to you to drink, you may not be wanting to waste it on something like this. But if you're not in a situation like that, then these are good to have. So I do have that. Just some tissues in there as well. Like I've said before, my child is prone to nosebleeds, so having a way to sort of take care of that is important to me. Having some things in here like these hot hands, hand warmers, of course an emergency rescue blanket is in here as well. Okay, so the other thing that's in here also are some of these gloves. I think that these are really great, these sort of medical gloves. There's lots of reasons why you would want different types of gloves to cover your hand in case you were dealing with somebody else's blood or something messy, or you were even in a nuclear situation where you had been in contact with this stuff and you needed to be able to pull that off and not have your hands exposed. I think these are great to have in your bag. And then the other item are just some matches. So matches are key to being able to start fires quickly. So these are all waterproof. There's several different boxes in here, and they're all kept inside of this nice little plastic bag. So having something like matches is also going to be a good thing to have. I just have another little pouch in here where I have stashed a whole bunch of different types of Band-Aids, and then I also have some ointment, Neosporin ointment, just in case. Some kind of antibacterial ointment I think is important. So I believe that we have covered all of these items here today. These are just to get you guys thinking about different things that you might want to consider adding to your bags, understanding that you have to start thinking about preparedness a little bit different. Don't just get stuck in one bag, one size fits all bag, because there are many different reasons to have different types of bags, and to also have them at the ready, because in a lot of cases you're going to be able to bring a lot of this stuff with you. So just understanding that you can go through these items. It's better to bring, some of this extra stuff with you and then pare it down and ditch it if you have to, rather than, leaving it all behind thinking that you're not going to need this or you're not going to need that. So be thinking those things through, thinking those situations through. And if you guys have enjoyed this video today, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. And remember to pray, prep, and put God first. God bless.